Good afternoon, everybody. This is Lorraine, Alternative Homesteading. Hope everybody's doing well. I just noticed that my glasses are missing. Oh, wait, never mind. I've just found them. Today is September 27, 2024. And I've received a lot of emails the last day or so. Couple of interesting things. One person has filed a lawsuit. And I don't know if this is a possibility, but there are some courts that will allow testimony from a distance via a Zoom call or a telephone call. And I think that that's something that people should look into if they require witnesses that live in other states, because obviously most people can't travel. And I don't advise traveling these days anyway. It's not a good time to travel. I certainly can't. I don't have anyone to watch my farm for me, nor do I have the extra funding. But so that would certainly be a possibility. And I also received a comment that about the witchcraft. Finally, people are emailing me privately and speaking out about it. But I want to mention an email that I received. I'm not going to mention the person's name. She says, I hope you're doing well. I'm emailing you regarding the last two YouTube videos involving witchcraft, and I'm going to have one more video about it. The reason why is because I've been noticing several targeted individuals talk about being psychically attacked by witches who are either perpetrators themselves or paid for hire to send hexes. And definitely that is certainly a possibility, and I believe that is actually happening. I can sense that these targeted individuals are in deep distress and are living in fear because they're malevolent witches attacking them while having to deal with gang stalking. And I could relate to the debilitating stress and agony we as targeted individuals face daily, and how it can take a toll on all levels of the victim, both psychically, mentally, emotionally, financially, and spiritually. In this mail, I want to share my knowledge to help support, uplift, and bring some clarity involving witchcraft and curses and witches. I am a practicing occultist. I have been on the spiritual path for almost a decade. I've gained knowledge through studying and practice, and I have experienced and encountered corrupted occultists and witches who used and abused their power and threw hexes on me on more than one occasion. What's weird is that I've never done anything to these individuals for them to have attacked me the way they did. But I learned that bad people come from all walks of life, and the occult community was no exception. It was unpleasant and terrifying to understand why targeted individuals are scared. Recently, I had several high-ranking witches send me curses, and by this time, something unexpected happened. I was receiving warning signs that a group of witches were planning to attack me physically several weeks in advance. What I found interesting about this is that the actual familiar spirits of those witches were the ones who warned me. They snitched before the curses were sent to me. One of those spirits advised me to wear a head cover for protection, something I didn't know but was quite stunned. I even had a nightmare, a psychic attack in my sleep during the witching hours, which is usually early in the morning, like 3 to 6 a.m., of a hound from hell trying to enter my condo, but was unsuccessful. I recognized the dog, a familiar spirit, and I knew the occultist who sent it to attack me. I'm going to refrain from revealing names, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to repeat that. Okay, I'm not going to repeat her also personal stuff here. Lorraine, I hope I don't freak you out by telling you this story. I don't usually talk to non-occultists about my woo-woo experiences, so I'm going to tell you about mine. And again, I don't talk about it much on my channel because people are, against astrology and tarot reading and all that stuff. But I'm going to tell you that from the time I was a child, I studied numerology. Literally in the single digits, 8, 9 years old, 10 years old. I'd buy the little books at the store, and I would walk around my house, reducing the numbers of all the things in my house: the desk, the dog, the cat, dog, a cat, whatever it was. I would do the numerology for it. As an adult, I studied it more deliberately, and also through astrology, because the degrees of the zodiac all have meanings. And there is an astrologer out there that wrote a book on the meanings of all the degrees of the zodiac. They're called, and she did what's called Sabian symbols. And the Sabian symbols were symbolic of every degree of the zodiac. And I would utilize all of those degrees in her book in performing astrology consultations. She was that good. And then there are other astrologers who study the birth chart from the time of birth, or before birth. So they'll look at your chart, and instead of, the ascendant, which is the sign rising on the horizon at the time of birth, he goes back in time to see what was going on in your parents' lives to impact you subconsciously and while you're developing in utero. So these are the things I studied. I studied medical astrology. I took an entire course. I would go to Native American sweats. It's called a sweat lodge. A couple of things happened in the Midwest with a sweat lodge, and people got sick or got trapped or whatever. And then, of course, they wanted to shut down all the sweat lodges. But I used to go to the sweat and be there for hours and get smudged with sage and, have the peace pipe. Exactly all the things that you've heard about the Native Americans and the traditions that were set forward in the Lakota tradition. And that's what this particular sweat was. It was located in Connecticut. I think the owners got sick, maybe got divorced or whatever, and it shut down years later. But I went several times. I also studied Reiki. Reiki's energy work, help realign the energy centers of the body. And I studied Reiki for many years. So I received my Reiki level 1, Reiki level 2, Reiki level 3, which was a course that was developed by my teacher at the time, which was a guided visualizations, and then my Reiki Master Teacher certification. This took many, many years, and I actually practiced Reiki on animals at the animal shelters in order to complete my service, my hours, putting in my hours to reach that level. Also during that time, I studied hypnosis. I am literally a certified clinical hypnotherapist. In New Jersey, you weren't allowed to use the word hypnotherapist. After several years, they said anybody who uses the word therapist is against the law unless you are a licensed therapist. I mean, it's just word salad. So we would have to call ourselves hypnotists. It's not recognized in every state. I think in Kentucky, they don't even like hypnosis. Well, that's because they're performing it on everybody here through their fusion center operatives and technology. I'm a professional astrologer. Professional means I got paid for many years. I had a very popular blog called Fuchsia Stars Lunar Notes. I still have it up there. It's still up there. I'll read from it from time to time for you guys. And I enjoy doing it. I also created, I did articles on asteroids. I work with other astrologers who want to edit their books. I helped Kim Farnell edit her books years ago, proofread and edit her books. And then Jacob Schwartz, who wrote the Asteroid Encyclopedia. I've met him in person. I've met him for lunch. He asked me to help him. And I started editing his encyclopedia, but unfortunately he passed away. He lived in another state. So I also worked on a children's astrology column. So I did astrology, I read the astrological science for children in a children's column. I was also called upon because of my wry sense of humor, especially people don't know me, but I have some very wry sexual sense of humor. And I was called upon by a sex columnist to write something humorous on the signs, and I did that. So then there was somebody overseas that wanted me to edit. What they were doing is they were writing a course on astrology, and they were taking the American language and converting it to their language. Unfortunately, this person turned out to be very nefarious and was stealing my work and not paying me for it. I also taught classes in my home and had healing circles. So I would do burning bowl ceremonies in my house. Burning bowl ceremonies meaning that you would take all of the things that you didn't want, you'd write them on little pieces of paper and you throw them into the pot. You could do this alone or with other people. I did it actually with my coworkers once. It was kind of hilarious. And then you burn them. You send them out to the universe, you know, like, I don't want these bad habits anymore. You write down the bad habits you don't want. You write them on a piece of paper and then you burn them. Goodbye. But then what you do is you write down all the things that you want to bring into your life. They could be on little post-it notes, you know, like a little post-it note, you know, like these little post-it notes, or little pieces of paper, strips. And then you fold them up and then you save them. And it's the same thing with, you know, any kind of visualization. I would do visualizations. I have been out of body. I've been out of body, and I feel like part of the reason that I may have been targeted is because of my spiritual gifts back in the day, before all of this assault on me. I could definitely be out of my body. I would see things about people that I didn't know that actually happened. I had precognitive dreams, meaning that they would come true. I would immediately see things about other people upon meeting them, that they were shocked. Like, I would get a feeling about them. Actually since I'm a child. And people would say, well, why do you feel that way about so-and-so? And I would tell people, you know, the way they were. And they'd say, no, like, that's not true. Because they weren't seeing what I was seeing. And it could be months later or years later where people would come up to me and say, you know what, you were right about that person. And it's like, I knew I was right. I mean, this was actually kind of something negative in my dating experiences. Because I would see things about my dates that they didn't want me to know. Like one guy I dated, he was actually a fire chief. Yeah, he was a fire chief. And I told him that, you know, he said that he divorced his wife, but that really wasn't true. You know, he said he divorced her because she was cheating on him or something like that. Well, it was a little more involved than that. She was cheating on him. She was, and I think she even married him with one of his friends. He was much younger than this guy, but he kind of lied about the whole thing. But I saw the lie. Like, just being in his presence. He didn't even have to tell me about it. I would just know and, like, ask a question. I'm very inquisitive about asking questions. Which is why, you know, I was a staffing recruiter for a long time. I was very good at pulling information out of people. And the people would very willingly give me information. Which is why I feel like I was a keeper of secrets for a lot of people. They confided a lot of things in me. But I also, I developed, I had classes in my home, and I was actually asked to speak at the American Federation of Astrologers conference in Arizona. They usually have these every year, every couple of years, I forget. And I taught 3 classes there, 3 lectures there. One was on, and I was the first astrologer back then to astrologically tear apart a borderline personality disorder. And in order to do that, I interviewed a lot of people. I spoke to some of the top people who were writing books about this topic. And I actually was a contributor to one of those books in my experience with a man that I dated who was a borderline. So I had firsthand experience with it. I also took a guided mindful meditation course. I think it was 8 weeks, 6 or 8 weeks. I also had a, how do I phrase this without sounding witchy, okay? Well, I had angels all of my house. Every room of the house, there were angels everywhere. And I really feel like I have guardian angels around me. I know where they are in my birth chart. I know that they're there because they always save me at the last minute. And I have been able to manifest things in my life that were virtually impossible at the time because I wanted them so badly. And I put the energy out there. So I know, I'm very cognizant about putting the energy out there and what may or may not happen. Okay? I got my ex-husband arrested in a friggin' heartbeat by putting the energy out there. It literally happened so soon. I was shocked. That's a story for another day, maybe. But anyway, so I am familiar. And I am familiar about how I can put a curse on someone. I know I can. Do I want to do that? I don't. I refrain from doing that. I put it out to the universe because, honestly, the universe, the energy, the master of the universe, knows not only my story, inside and out, but my perpetrators. I only know part of their story, what they're doing to me. But the master of the universe, which is not Satan, by the way, it's not Lucifer. The master of the universe knows their other dirty deeds and will take care of them in their own way. But what I do is I will send the energy out there to take care of them on my behalf. And it's going to happen. It will definitely happen. You know, like my neighbor falling in the ditch and ending up in a county jail. And there's more coming to her. So now she goes on to say, before I start talking about the mechanics of hexes and curses, there is something else that I've been wanting to ask you about, which involves your real estate mobbing ordeal. Lorraine, when you uploaded a video about the whistleblower sheriff who claimed that FBI agents bullied him and took away evidence of his investigation, he mentioned something about fraudulent mortgages that caught my attention. Lorraine, do you think there's something else going on with the criminals sabotaging you from selling your property? Do you believe there may be something else going on? Do you think that the government is planning to snatch your land from you in the future? Is there a hidden agenda? Well, I'm going to answer that question, okay? There's always a hidden agenda. They're always trying to sabotage your land and sabotage you from moving. So I'm going to answer that question here. They absolutely have a hidden agenda to flood my property. They are digging up my land like nobody's business. They are trying to cause a landslide. They're trying to cause a flood. They're trying to cause the stream behind my house, which is no big deal, the little bridge there, to collapse. I have all of that evidence, all the photos and videos and stuff. And the local people here, they're all criminals. They're all corrupt. But from the day I moved here, there must be something very special about my property across the street, aside from the fact of all the property here. And normally I'm not going to talk about, but I have 64.6 acres of land. Part of that is broken up. I've got 3 separate deeds. And this is for anybody that wants to buy the land. It's going to be a steal. Because not only am I selling all the buildings here, all the upgrades that I did, my house, which is 5 years old, the buildings that I brought here, which are 5 years old, whatever upgrades I did, and I will mention that all the things that they did to destroy the property, like planting weeds in my driveway, scraping the paint off my gates, digging dirt that is mixed with rock that is virtually irreplaceable, dumping the water, stealing, rotting my food, digging holes everywhere, and they're not. I believe that they're putting snakes around my property. I have not had snakes, like where I live, for 4 years. So if I find one here, it's been placed here. Because I got rid of everything, and I keep my grass especially low. And besides the fact that I've got 20 some odd guineas that eat everything under the sun. So yeah, they're planting and sabotaging they're sabotaging the property from selling by co-opting all of the realtors. And I will be doing another video on that. In fact, I'm going to have another interview with someone soon. And every one of these efforts is going to be exposed by name. And it'll be out there for everybody to hear. So anyway, of course they're trying to destroy me. And everybody wants me to move, and I want to move. But I'm not going to sell it at a bargain basement price either. Like, that's what they did in New Jersey. They pushed me out of there, but in New Jersey it was very different. In New Jersey, I had a mortgage, and I had an equity line that actually I owed more than my mortgage. So there was a huge financial incentive for me to move from there and get rid of all that. And right now, and for the record, nobody did, but I don't have a mortgage. I pay cash for my house. I pay cash for everything. And I can't say the same for my neighbors around here. They still owe mortgages on their own homes. Baffles the mind, since the property taxes here are so dirt cheap. It's unbelievable. And that nobody purchased this property. The local county lawyer, Ross Murray, said, they thought it was too expensive. Really? And I don't mind saying what it costs for me to buy this property. It was $125,000. You're probably like laughing and giggling, thinking, whoa, you only paid that? Well, I had no place to live when I moved here. There was no place to live. I had no driveway. Didn't have the septic. The grass was 4 feet tall. So I had to invest a lot of money in order to make it livable. I had 3 greenhouses. These criminals took them all down. And don't worry, because this sheriff, I haven't done the letter. I have to be in the mood to write these letters. But my internet is going out all the time. They're going to get a letter. The sheriff's going to get a letter. All of my neighbors are getting letters. And I will be interviewed very soon and exposing all of them, including the Attorney General's office, who has not gotten back to me on the complaint that I filed a year ago. So I believe that there are 2 hidden agendas, okay? I believe that my property is likely more valuable than I'm aware of. I believe that the former owner may have confided in some local people about this property. And there are some things about this property I cannot disclose publicly for safety reasons. But I believe that the property is a hell of a lot more valuable than what I even believe. Okay? And I believe that some of these local people know it, especially the property across the street, which they've been trying to steal since the day I moved here, when my neighbor, the guy, not his wife, I didn't meet her for like a year and a half, 2 years, so neighborly. he comes by with his pack of dogs, and I've got cats, and he tells me he wants to show me where my property starts. He walks me all the way down the county road to the middle of my property and says it starts here, and then walks me down to the corner. It was a lie, literally, within 3 days of my living here. They were trying to make me believe that my property across the street wasn't mine until I got a survey. And then they flipped out. They've been trying to steal that property across the street since the day I moved here. They tore down my gate, and yeah, they're all in on it. And also, when I moved here, the sheriff that we have now was a deputy. And he, illegally, without permission, brought all of his horses onto my outer field and let them live there. While I'm under contract, before I move here, when I move here, and they totally dug up my property. And then the horses left. I guarantee the whole time the former owner was in the hospital, he dragged those horses here. This is how entitled these people are around here. They just take whatever they want. Invade other people's privacy, other people's property. Oh, but if it was happening to them. So I do think that there are two things going on. And this happens with all targeted people who own property. It's, they will sabotage your property to reduce the value of the property, make it less desirable. It will sell eventually. They are going to blacklist your property with whomever real estate person gets involved because they'll contact them, bribe them, threaten them, coerce them, just like they did in New Jersey. They want to get the property value lower, and then they'll sell it to one of their buddies. They only want their person to come in here. So that's one agenda. The other agenda is if I don't leave, they're going to inflict as much damage to the property as possible to cause an environmental issue. If it becomes an environmental issue, then they'll, just like they did in Hawaii, right? Oh, it's environmental. Oh, we have to take your property. Well, if it's my property, then it's going to be my neighbor's property too. It's going to be everybody's property around here. It won't just be mine. Because let me tell you, the county creek, if it floods, it's not going to just flood on my property. It's going to flood on my neighbors across the street too. It's going to flood down the block too. And it's not that we don't have these little floods. Kentucky gets a crazy amount of rain, like large amounts of rain in very short periods of time, and then it stops. Like right now, it stopped raining. It almost looks like the sun's going to come out. But it's raining. This is 3 days in a row, probably the tail end of the storm. But also, they spray the skies here like crazy. Like crazy. So yes, they are not only trying to sabotage the sale to keep me here, because remember, I'm a targeted person. They're banking on me. They're banking. They're getting their sadistic pleasure. They're being paid. When I leave, their money stream disappears. Unless they can get another targeted person here, which is going to be few and far between. Right? The property's not going to be $125,000 anymore. My property's listed for $584,000 now. That's right. And if I have to put a little more money into it, I'll do it, just the way I did in New Jersey. But I'm doing everything differently now. And land is going to be valuable, especially for people that are going to be moving out of other states. So that's to answer that question, not in its entirety, but yes, there are two different scenarios here that they're trying to do. They're trying to inflict as much damage to the property so that it sells for less. And I guarantee one of these little effers down the block, maybe even the sheriff, wants my property. You know, because now he just keeps pumping out babies with the perps down the block that he's not married to. Right? Although, let me tell you, there are a lot of places around here to buy property. But there really isn't one property just like mine. There really isn't. And I'm not just saying that. It's unique. But there are properties coming up actually all over Kentucky for sale. Not just in this area. But the property taxes are really low here. So now, going back to the explanation of curses and hexes, occultists and witches who are Satanists and they're atheists. Satanists or demon worshippers work with darker, lower level beings or entities, underground or chthonic. They use their powers either for material gain or to control or harm others. When witches use binding spells, they attach themselves to their targets. A side effect of the binding spell. Another thing, Lorraine, you should remember that spells do wear off, and the witch will need to recast them. Spells and energy are like how you need to recharge your cell phone battery. It all depends on the spell and the witch who casts them. There are many witchcraft traditions and hundreds of ways to curse someone. However, the malevolent witches attract poltergeists and earthbound spirits and evil spirits because of the energetic frequencies under which they work. When you try to gather swamp water to throw at a target that you want to hex, you will also get some of that polluted water back on you. If you spit venom at the target, you will also swallow some of that venom. The concept applies to binding spells. Evil witches are not divinely protected, nor are they divinely guided. When someone does evil to others, is greedy and materialistic, and avoids working or healing themselves and others, they are in survival mode, and their intuition is blocked. The demons aren't protecting malevolent occultists and witches, and demons are no match to the light workers and angels. Lorraine, I say this from personal experience, and I don't do curse work. I pray for protection and guidance. Somehow I get the answers that reveal my enemies, inspiration and solutions for my higher self. I want targeted individuals to be empowered and do not fear witches. These discussions are valuable and hopefully bring relief to victims suffering, and that they're not weak, and they are capable of blocking witches from attacking them. I hope I didn't freak you out with this email. I'm trying to be helpful and spread knowledge. I admit, I don't know the absolute truth. If you have any questions, let me know. So, I hope that was helpful to you guys. I'm getting a lot of emails here from people, but I'm going to read what I was going to read as a follow-up to the witchcraft video that I posted. So now this is, how does a person guard against spider binding spells of witchcraft? Does knowing about and finding and destroying it mitigate the spell? Guarding against spider binding spells or any form of witchcraft requires a combination of spiritual, psychological, and sometimes physical measures. Binding spells are often used to restrict a person's actions or energy, so breaking free from such influence involves a proactive approach. And I want to tell you what they're doing here. They're spreading triangle pieces of glasses, a little piece of glass, pottery and stuff, very pointed objects, very angry. They slice things. They're very angry. These are very angry people. They're leaving all kinds of dirt, filth, garbage all over my property, as you know. They're also destroying the trees, damaging the trees deliberately. So they're also placing insects in my house. Gnats, tiny spiders, large spiders, the snake they placed in where the chickens hang out last week. I did a video on that. Yeah, so they like to dump things on my property. And there definitely are spells, spider webs everywhere. And what I do is I burn their stuff. I salt it, burn it, destroy it. You have to find it first. I'm aware of it. And that's the first thing, is being aware of it. Number one, the spiritual protection practices. Many witches and spiritual practitioners and people who believe in energy work use protection methods to guard against negative magical influences, including binding spells. Some protection spells are you cast your own protective spells to shield yourself from harmful energies, and these spells create a spiritual barrier around you, making it difficult for negative magic to reach you. And this is why they're constantly putting me to sleep. I don't have that negative mindset, and things generally roll off of me. And besides the fact, for anybody that knows astrology, you know that old song about, I am woman, hear me roar, back in the day, like in the 70s or whatever. Well, I'm going to say that I am Pluto, hear me roar. Pluto is the top of my chart. It's my chart ruler. And it's an exact, by degree, sign, by degree, to Mars. So both of my chart rulers are in harmony. And smack in the middle of that is Venus. And because of that, the things that I go through are regenerative to me. I may feel really bad for a day or two, like when they do things to my cats. They hit me in the head. They're harming my eyes and stuff. But I grew up with very strong family members. My mother was very spiritual, and she was psychic. And my father was a genius. Literally, he was a genius. So I grew up with the intellect of my father and the intuitiveness and kindness of my mother, who was a Scorpio. And my mother always said, don't get mad, get even. And she would do it with a smile on her face. And my mother, I really feel that in many ways she was divinely protected. And she went through hell in her life. But she worked her ass off just like my father. And both of my parents were extremely hard workers. They worked very hard their whole lives. They always made money. And I grew up with that mindset of working hard and earning and creating like my father. My father was multi-talented. So yeah, I am Pluto. Hear me roar. And I do not negotiate with bullies. So you can use protective herbs like sage, rosemary, or basil. You can use light, like black or white candles for protection. You can visualize a protective white or golden light surrounding your body as a spiritual shield. And that's what we're taught to visualize. Like when I was studying for Reiki. Surround your body in white healing light. You could use amulets or talismans. You could wear a protective charm or a symbol. And of course, the Christians out there, or the very religious people are going to say, oh, no, it's voodoo, it's witchcraft. You know what? Everybody practices their spirituality in their own way. And I don't negate what other people do in their practices. As long as it's positive for the universe, positive to other people, positive to yourself. If you're going to put hexes and curses on other people, that's not cool. It's going to come back to you. So now some people use a pentacle or pentagram. This is what I'm reading here. This is witchcraft, okay? This is a symbol of protection in witchcraft traditions. Then they use an evil eye amulet. And you need to learn this. Because this is what's being done to targeted people. Okay? They use it to deflect negative energies or ill intent. A cross or other sacred symbols, depending on your faith, wearing a symbol that represents your spiritual beliefs can offer protection. Like, some people will wear a cross. These Satanists wear a cross upside down, right? They let you know who they are. Then there's mirror magic, placing mirrors facing outward in your home, or carry a small one with you. In magic, mirrors are believed to reflect and send back any negative energy or spell sent your way. And guess what I have in my house? Mirrors in my windows facing outward. Then you could use salt for protection. Salt is a common protective element. And you can sprinkle salt around your home or near entrances to form protected boundary. Use salt baths to cleanse yourself from any negative energy. Epsom salt baths contain magnesium and cleanse the aura of your body. And when you're around negative people, your aura gets sticky from their negative energy, and it makes you feel weak. And that stickiness could be from your perpetrators. They can be from the pulse microwave radiation, from the energy frequencies also. Which is why, I like to take Epsom salt baths with herbs, a little bit of borax, and baking soda. And I'll stay in there for half an hour. And then I'll rinse off my body. You absolutely should rinse it off, because you don't want any of that old stuff on your body. Just rinse it quickly. And then you could oil up your body with almond oil. Don't use baby oil. It's bad for you. Very bad. Almond oil, apricot kernel oil, or castor oil. Number 2, finding and destroying the spell. And that's what I do. If you believe a binding spell has been cast upon you, discovering and destroying any physical components of the spell can potentially weaken or break it. That's why I walk around my property picking up their witchcraft. And I know what it is. I know the way trees, leaves, and fall, and the way tree branches fall. And when they're lining circular portions of your property, they are placed there. So I pick them up and burn them. And the same thing with the glass, the triangle witch glass, and all the other little objects that they leave on the property gets burned or thrown away. So destroying the object. Once you find the object, carefully destroy it in a ritualistic manner. Burn the object. Fire is a powerful purifier in many magical traditions. Burning the spell components can symbolically destroy its power over you. And in my opinion, and this is what I do, when I find it, I know it has no more power over me. And they're going to keep doing it, but I'm not going to let this BS affect me. Bury the remains. After burning, bury the ashes far from your home. Dissolve it in water. If burning isn't an option, you can dissolve the object in water, visualizing the spell losing its power. And then afterwards, once the object is destroyed, you want to cleanse yourself and your space and to remove the lingering negative energy. You can use sage, smudging, holy water, or salt for this purpose. And as an FYI, I have holy water, and I do smudge with sage. And sometimes, when the weather's nice, or at certain times of the year, like early in the spring, I'll just put sage outside and just let it burn in the middle of my property. Move it from house to house. I'll perform a ritual in my house by protecting all the corners of my property, all the corners of my house with sage. And in the native tradition, sage was often used for cleansing. Then there's the psychological and emotional resilience. Spells, typically, especially binding spells, often rely on the target believing in their power. Developing a strong mind and emotional resilience can prevent a spell from taking hold. So that's where I come in on where I live and how I deal with it. I am emotionally resilient, and I am psychologically resilient. And even though I know what these witches are doing, in my mind, they have no power over me. So that's where the self-empowerment comes in. You focus on affirmations and being self-confident. And I am self-confident. And some people have told me that I'm arrogant. Self-confidence is not being arrogant. I know who I am. There are a lot of people that don't know who they are. They're not confident in who they are or their abilities. I grew up in a home with two parents that told me all the time that I could be and do anything that I wanted as long as I work for it. And both of my parents were those people. They didn't just talk about it. They were successful people. My mother was working until the day they unalived her. She worked for lawyers for years. 35 years she worked for lawyers. Remind yourself that no one can control or bind you unless you allow it. A strong belief in your own power and ability to resist negative magic can be one of your greatest defenses. Then there's positive visualizations. Regularly visualize yourself cutting the cords or threads that might be holding you back. Imagine any bindings breaking apart and dissolving. And they actually do this with children who are diagnosed with the C word. They have taught children, because children, they're so pure, they can very easily visualize. And children have cured themselves. Children, by visualizing breaking the cords. They'll bring in their Pokemon or superhero, their super critter, whatever those things are. I don't watch video games. So, and have those video game creatures destroy the enemy, right? And the enemy is their disease. Then there's meditation and grounding. Regularly practice meditation and grounding exercises to keep your energy balanced and strong. This makes it harder for external forces to disrupt your inner peace. Spiritual cleansing and reversals. If you believe that you're under a binding spell, like when the criminals around here place witchcraft around, like creeping Charlie, because they're creepers, they like things to creep around buildings. So I pull their creeping vines out. A reversal spell sends the negative energy or magic back to its source. One method involves lighting a black candle and chanting that all negativity sent your way be returned to its origin. So what I do is every time they do something to me, I sing my little Carmageddon song, which is, Carmageddon's coming back to you. Everything you do to me is coming back to you times 10. Back to you times 10. Back to you times 10. Everything you do to me is coming back to you times 10. And some practitioners use mirrors or reflective surfaces to bounce back the energy. Then there are the unbinding rituals. You can perform an unbinding ritual where you symbolically undo what was done. One way is to take a cord and untie knots while chanting or stating affirmations of freedom and release from any bindings. And you can also create your own spell with counter symbols such as cutting cords or unraveling webs. And that's what I do around here. I take down all those spider webs and I get rid of the spiders. I try to not kill them. I'll just pick them up. They send all these spiders with long legs around here. So I just pick up the spider by one of his legs and just toss him aside. Poof, he's gone. They keep putting him back though. They place them around the cat building and I have to sweep them away. Then you can seek help from an experienced practitioner. If you feel overwhelmed or unable to counter the spell on your own, seeking the guidance of a skilled spiritual healer, witch, or energy worker can help. A witch, a healer, or spiritual guide specialize in unbinding spells and can help you through the process. They can conduct cleansing ceremonies or cast protective spells to shield you. If you're a religious person, you might seek the help from a clergy member to perform a blessing or exorcism. I'm not a religious person, so that would not be an option for me. Does finding and destroying the spell mitigate its power? Yes. Finding and destroying the physical objects used in a binding spell can weaken or even completely dissolve the spell. Many forms of magic rely on symbolic items to hold the energy of the spell, and by destroying these objects, you're severing the link between the spellcaster's intentions and the target, thereby mitigating the spell's effects. So in conclusion, you can protect yourself from binding spells, including those involving spiders, and it requires a combination of proactive spiritual defense, mental resilience, and sometimes physical action like finding and destroying the bitchcraft. So, and that's what I call it, the bitchcraft. Because they're bitches. That's what they are. And they're, witches, the wops. I call them wops now. The witches on patrol. Wops. And then there's the mops, the morons on patrol, like your neighbors. Those are the morons on patrol. Then there's the cops, the criminals on patrol, the real criminals on patrol. The ones with badges. And then there's the pops, the predators on patrol. Those are the real sadistic, sick people. They'll do it for fun, and they don't even care if they get paid. Remember, the most powerful protection often comes from within. Belief in your own strength and ability to counter such influences plays a significant role in freeing yourself from harmful magic. So you have to be very confident on your own, within your own energy, that these people, these witches, the bitchcraft is not going to affect you, no matter what they do. So that's why they're destroying my property, because their bitchcraft is not affecting me. I'm still here. And I'm their favorite number these days. I'm 66 years old. Yeah. And these criminals, these 30, 40-year-olds here, harassing a senior citizen, what does that tell you about them? They're little weenies, little babies, little perverts. These are sick people. Imagine if I were their age. That's right. When back in the day, when I was that age and I was at the height of my spirituality, absolutely no chance of harming me. Zero. So, you witches that are listening to me right now, you're all going to be exposed. It's all going to come back to you times 10. Back to you times 10. So you can guard yourself against binding spells and witchcraft by using spiritual protection practices, no matter what it is for you. It could be using your Bible. It could be your cross. It could be a holy book. It could be a special book. It could be something that one of your parents gave you, a friend that has significance for you. It could be a healing stone, like quartz. It could be sage. One of my subscribers suggested using olive oil. I've never heard this before. She suggested using olive oil, like all of my windows, like in the corners of the windows and doors and stuff. And just, putting it out there that I'm protected. I haven't done that yet. And the reason is, I live in a very humid environment. I really don't want to put olive oil. Olive oil will attach itself to all the insects that they're spreading in my house. And so I'm not going to use that. At all. But I do use salt. Unfortunately, with all the rain we've been having, the salt is going to dissipate. So I'll do another salting, probably when it gets a lot drier. I haven't done a salting in a while. Although I did salting around my cat's building just like a couple of months ago. But I do use sage. And I actually did use sage probably last month or so. I'm not crazy about the smell of it inside my house. It smells a little bit like marijuana. It smells a little weird like that, and it kind of leaves a lingering aroma that I'm not crazy about. So sometimes after I do the smudging, I'll use lavender essential oils. I'll touch portions of my house with an essential oil to get rid of that odor. But that's what I do. So I so appreciate, I won't mention your name, I so appreciate you responding. Oh, well, here she is. Well, 1 second, she just sent me another mail. Yes, you have my permission to share all of that information. That's the whole purpose of sharing knowledge that I've gained over the years. I want to help targeted individuals by letting them know that they can break and protect themselves from curses, malevolent, occultists, and witches. It's all about taking their focus off their fear of the curses and learning the mechanics of hexing and how to reverse or dismantle, scrap, and dump those curses instead of sending them to the sender. There are different ways of handling curses, and my advice to all targeted individuals is to learn how witchcraft works instead of feeling discouraged and disempowered. Witches and warlocks thrive when targets remain in the dark because they want us to not take our power back and gain control over our lives. Because of my recent bad experiences with occult groups, I would recommend targeted individuals to join covens, lodges, or psychic development groups because members are likely perps. She says, I wouldn't recommend the targeted individuals join covens, lodges, or psychic development groups because members are likely perps and targeted individuals are in vulnerable positions. I suggest that targeted individuals go solitary, practice mindfulness like meditation, and focus on healing themselves. I feel betrayed by how corrupted and controlling some high-ranking occultists are, and how easily they can turn on you, especially if you're targeted. But we are humans and have flaws, so I must accept how things are, learn my lesson, and move on. One detail I forgot to mention about a dream I had involving an Asian guy who was demolishing the tile floors in my condo. He was holding a giant sledgehammer while using it to destroy my floors. She says, don't hammers represent the communist flag along with a sickle? Maybe I'm overthinking. I have a terrible suspicion about the future of targeted individuals and America. I fear that World War III is around the corner and that the slavery of humanity. Regarding the real estate mobbing you're experiencing, you're doing a great job exposing these criminals and how you're being sabotaged. Along with the ongoing vandalism, asset stripping, which is diminishing the value of your property. I hope you receive justice for everything you've endured, Lorraine. I always enjoy watching your videos. They make me acknowledge that I'm not alone in the targeting and that other people are suffering too. Targeted individuals need to unite very strong and support each other. Stay blessed, Lorraine. Wish you all the best. I hope you sell your property and move away. So do I, and thank you so much. And I'm sure that the subscribers listening to this, I'm now like on an hour, finds that your testimony is extremely valuable. I so appreciate it. Thank you. So on that note, if you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. If you want to email me privately, it's alternativehomesteading@gmail.com. And yes, I do tarot readings and astrological consultations, but you have to remember that I am a targeted person. And I have good days and bad days. I love astrology, and I loved reading tarot cards. And I'm going to just tell you that in New Jersey, I was hired by the top leading party planner in New Jersey. And I worked with them for years. I was actually friends with the owner. She hired me for her own pajama parties for her adult friends, and I would read cards for them. And it was so much fun. And I worked a Halloween party for a local neighbor. I believe it was between 8 and 10 years. The only requirement was, I had to show up and I had to dress up because it was a costume party. So yes, I dressed up and showed up and worked their party for either 8 or 10 years, every year, every Halloween. And they had the most exceptional party. Their house was, how do I, decorated head to toe. Outside, inside, down the block, everywhere. He spent thousands and thousands of dollars. And he would hire a magician. He would hire me. He would hire puppeteers and stuff for his guests. And so yeah, I did that. I also worked children's parties. They would hire me, and what would I do? No, I would not bring my regular cards with me. I would bring my flower cards. I had flower tarot decks with just flowers, and I had angels, and I would bring my angel and flower cards to read to the children and help guide them. The same with the Sweet 16 parties that I was hired for, and the graduations. I loved doing the graduations. Graduations was so much fun. And they were all in New Jersey. So anyway, and that's what I did. I did that for a living. And for anybody that doesn't like that, that's quite all right. We can agree to disagree. I also, as an FYI, had my own staffing business while I was doing this overlapping and supporting my daughter, while being back and forth into court with my ex-husband over 3.5 years. So anyway, that's a little bit more about me, about the occult, about protecting yourself, and you must learn about what is being done to targeted people. It's not just technology. It is witchcraft. And for those people who get V2K, that is a form of spell casting. Okay? So please educate yourself about this. And it's running rampant in the music industry, in Hollywood. All the actors and actresses are aware of it. Some of them are speaking out now. But please protect yourself. And the sun is shining. As I'm saying that, the sun actually came out. Which means that I could finally go outside and hopefully things will start to dry up a little bit out there. But this is Lorraine Alternative Homesteading, exposing one criminal and witch at a time. Please remember to hit the thumbs up. It helps the channel grow and get the message out there.